Taoiseach, I'm not going to get into the investigation into this tragedy. We don't yet know what has happened. But we do know that something very seriously went wrong. A bright and bubbly child died and disappeared, and no one noticed. Sadly, this is not the only time this has happened. Karen Dernan disappeared in 2022 and is presumed dead. Nobody noticed he was missing until late last year. It's horrifying that children can simply disappear in this country. Taoiseach, TUSLA is conducting a rapid review of its interactions with Daniel's family and referred the case to a national review panel. But that's not good enough. An independent statutory review should be triggered in every case of a child known to TUSLA who disappears. This is the bare minimum these children deserve. This is not to apportion blame. It's to find out what went wrong, to make sure it never happens again, to prevent more children disappearing and dying. Taoiseach, Daniel was failed in life. Let's not fail him in debt. Will you establish a statutory review into this tragedy? And what has been done to support the community in Donabate who are grieving and in shock, as is the entire country?
You're entirely correct. I think the way you summed up the most horrific and tragic situation in relation to Daniel is right. We don't yet know what went wrong, but something seriously went wrong is I think, captures exactly the situation that we find ourselves in. And I do want to pay tribute to the Gardaí and all of those that were involved in the search for little Daniel. None of us can really imagine or comprehend how traumatic an experience that must be for all of those on the front line. And we think of them and their own families and the trauma that they must be enduring today, as well, of course, as the incredible trauma being endured by everybody who knew Daniel. And you ask a fair question, and my honest to God answer is I don't think we can rule anything out at this stage. I do think the responsible thing for us to do here is to try and establish the facts, but we can't rule anything out. So what's the situation as of now? There's obviously the Garda investigation, which you and I rightly didn't comment on. There is TUSLA conducting the rapid review process of their own engagement with Daniel's family. And the Minister for Children has asked that the National Review Panel would prioritise the review of this case. So once the TUSLA rapid review is completed, which I understand will be completed within days, that will then be forwarded to the National Review Panel, and it will examine any engagement that Daniel and his parents had with health, social, educational or any other state services. The National Review Panel has an independent chair, along with its own independent legal advisors, and it makes findings of fact and produces reports that are objective and independent of TUSLA. But I don't rule anything out at this stage, because I think this is a deeply distressing situation that is somewhat evolving in terms of what we're learning in real time. In addition to that, separately, there will be an independently chaired wellbeing review of all child welfare cases that were closed during the COVID-19 pandemic, and where there's been no further contact with the child since. This number now stands at 42,000 when all periods of school closure during COVID, which takes in the early part of 2022 as well as 2020 and 2021, are taken into account. And there's also a number of commitments to also change our own legislation in relation to the Childcare Act, which would provide further protections in relation to child protection and welfare services in the state, and strengthen the child protection legal framework, increase the powers for TUSLA and ensure greater cooperation. But in direct answer to your question, we keep an open mind on exactly what you asked, and we've got to see where the facts bring us in the coming days.